New banking rules in Canada, mechanisms of control. The Finance Minister of Canada, the ironically named Chrystia Freeland, announced in a recent press conference that in accord with the Emergencies Act, accounts of protesters and supporters of the protesters would be frozen or suspended, all without the need for a court order. This should alarm not just the good people of Canada, but everyone on the planet. Yet, as awful as it is, I hope that some good can come from it. I'm hoping that it will act just like the sounding of an ordinary bedside alarm clock and will wake people up. There are, at present, not enough people awake. More people need to realise who we're really dealing with and understand what's really going on. What else can we take away from this? There are several points I wish to make with regard to this matter. Point number 1. It should be clear by now to anyone who cares to consider the matter but for a moment that our overlords control the entire banking system. This latest measure should be evidence enough. All anyone should need to be persuaded. This measure should demonstrate the amount of control our overlords have and the amount of power that they wield. Be advised, the banking system, the central banks and the high street banks are part of the control grid. Money can be turned into a weapon of sorts and used for whatever nefarious purposes so desired. Money has been weaponized, to use a modern-day term. This weapon has been turned against the protesters and their supporters. Donors of money to the Freedom Convoy cause using the website GiveSendGo are being targeted. They are suspending insurance for the trucks also. Even if only relatively few people are affected, this should be cause for concern for everyone, not least because a precedent has been set. As for those directly affected, they won't have access to any funds. They'll be denied access to cash and to cryptocurrencies. What are these people supposed to do? How are they supposed to survive? Well, the answer is our overlords don't want them to survive. The truth is as simple and as stark as that. Point number 2. In making this move, the governments have basically declared war on its own populace. People might not see it in these terms, but that's the situation. And as I've said in other videos, we are at war. The sooner people realise this, the better. I wish that we weren't at war, but that's the reality, and we have to deal with reality, the world as it truly is, rather than the world as we would wish it to be. Point number 3. As a side note, the truckers, along with anyone supporting them, have been classified as domestic terrorists. Accordingly, they have invoked the terrorists' funding laws. Bear in mind that it is the state who defines who is and who is not a terrorist. Point number 4. There is no due process and no rule of law. The accounts of protesters and supporters of protesters could be frozen or suspended, all without the need for a court order. Our overlords have demonstrated that they do not care about the laws of the land. No need for me to say any more on this matter. Moving on. Point number 5. They already have a great deal of control in most matters relating to finance, and they mean to extend this control. To this end, they want to bring in the central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. They want to bring about a centrally controlled cryptocurrency for each nation. If you want to get an idea of what this might look like, then you only have to look at China and what the CCP have done with regard to their CBDC, the digital yuan. Everything in China is paid for digitally on a smartphone or PC. Cash is no longer used. And I should say that this is tied to a social credit system. This basically means that you score points if you're considered by the CCP as being a good citizen, and conversely, you lose points if you're considered by the CCP as being a bad citizen. Notice that once again, it's the state who decides on who is considered good or bad. And if they deem you to be bad or some kind of threat, they can literally turn off access to any funds. Sound familiar? This is the ultimate control mechanism. Be advised, China is the model that they want to roll out across the globe. Point number 6. Cash refers to the physical form of currency, paper currency, and metal coins in circulation, the ones we use every day in stores and such like. So this includes all the banknotes and all the coins of whatever denomination. I now wish to make a distinction between cash and any digital currency in any bank or on any computer system. So what I'm talking about here are the figures you see when you log in to an online account, or the figures you see when you go to an ATM to check up on your balance, or the figures you see on a monthly bank statement. I shall refer to these from now on as digital currency. Cash and digital currency combined go to make up the total amount of currency in circulation in a country. It should be noted that up until relatively recently, cash was king. The actual amount of cash in the economy nowadays is only about 5%. The other 95% is digital. The upshot is that cash is no longer king in our societies. The war on cash conducted by our overlords has been carried out in order to kill cash so that they can bring in the digital currencies and extend their control. Why am I talking about this? Why is this important? Well, we need to consider fractional reserve banking. I'm not going to talk in depth about this. Instead, I shall refer you to an earlier video I made entitled Fractional Reserve Banking so that you can get a better understanding of this topic. Suffice to say that the bank is legally required to keep only a small percentage or fraction of a currency on its records at any one time. So, for instance, with a fractional reserve ratio of 9:1, the bank can loan up to 90% of any deposits made by customers. It's therefore only required to retain 10% of the currency in connection to customer accounts. And even then, this might not be in the form of cash in its vaults. It could just be digital currency on a computer system. Given that banks now don't hold much cash in their vaults, what do you imagine might occur in the event of a bank run? Only a small percentage of people will be able to get their money. That percentage depends on what fractional reserve requirement is. The vast majority of people won't be able to get their money out of the banks. Only a few at the very front of the queue will be able to withdraw any cash. And the banks will impose capital controls. They will put a limit on how much money you can take out. They might even, or probably will, just close the doors and announce a bank holiday. Let this video serve as a warning to you. Before I end this video, I want to say one thing. All this is not a matter of mere conjecture concocted by some crazy conspiracy theorist. It can no longer be dismissed as some kind of conspiracy theory. It's not just a theory. This is now fact. This is a real world example. If you are not already aware, be advised that our plans of our overlords are to recreate a feudal system of a bygone age with two distinct groups, the lords and the serfs. It would seem that the two-tier society that exists in Kazakhstan is the type of societal structure that they wanted to create in all countries of the world. You might not believe me when I say this, but all you need to do is look at Klaus Schwab, Executive Chairman of the World Economic Forum, the Young Leaders, the Agenda 2030, and the Build Back Better campaign, and all that. Wise up and rise up.